Hello, my name is Annette Dalloo, and you are listening to The Heart of You. Welcome back to The Heart of You. Today's episode is going to be about free will versus destiny. So have you ever wondered how much of your life is destined? Is that sort of fate stepping in versus how much choice you actually have? So I'm going to sort of decode what it is that I've seen in the Akashic Records and how it works and how much free will we actually have and how much destiny plays a part in our everyday lives. I would like to get one thing clear right off the bat. You have free will. That's it. That's the whole thing about us being on this planet is that we have free will. We can do whatever we want. Now, does that mean it goes against our, let's say, soul contracts or whatever it is we have come here to learn? It could. Yeah, in fact, it could. And actually, it could send you down sort of a path that is not particularly good for you in regards to what you're supposed to be here learning and that sort of thing. So I want to just be clear that yes, we do absolutely have free will in every single choice that we make. But I'm sure you all know, as well as I do myself, I've been through this myself where I have decided, oh, I'm just going to do this. I don't care what the universe is telling me. I'm just going to do it anyway. And things just end up spectacularly wrong. And I'm sure you've all experienced that as well. What does that mean exactly? Well, sometimes it is a course correction. Sometimes it is a lesson that you need to learn. And sometimes you just need to go through those particular situations in order to come out the other side and see what it is that you are meant to be doing. I mean, how many times have you gone and tried something? Let's say if you're going to go try a painting class and then you realize that, oh, okay, painting is definitely not for me, or I don't necessarily have a talent in painting. But let's say in that class, you end up meeting somebody who was taking a sculpture class the month before and says, oh, I took this amazing sculpture class and maybe you would really like that. And so then you go and try that sculpture class and that ends up being the class that is really resonating for you. Was the painting class necessary for you to be able to get to the sculpting class? I mean, maybe. There are many different ways we can get to these types of scenarios where maybe a friend recommends something or you run into somebody and they just happen to be talking about sculpting and it sort of piques your interest and then you kind of follow that thread from that point forward. In that scenario, it's a very simple scenario, but in that scenario, is that then destiny? Were you destined to take that painting class in order to meet that person who then told you about the sculpting class? I feel that that particular way of living is just following the little breadcrumbs of the universe. So the universe is always going to give you little breadcrumbs of the sort of best direction for you to take. Now, if you've been using your divination tools, if you've been really checking in with your angels and guides, and you're in this practice of doing this on a regular basis, this type of living in the flow can be a bit easier because you are a little bit more in tuned on a day-to-day basis to your guidance, to the flow of energy that is the most beneficial for you in that particular moment. I'm going to give you another simple example. It's a real world example of following the flow of your life and the guidance that you are getting versus having that free will and really enacting that free will power that you have. Last summer, I was in the south of France with some friends on vacation, and we were having an absolutely lovely afternoon, and it was just flowing. Everything was going great. And I had a session with a client later on that evening. So I came back to the Airbnb where we were staying and basically decided that I was going to do this session outside because it was a gorgeous day. The sun was shining. It was just absolutely spectacular. And there's no reason why I wouldn't have done this session outside. Meanwhile, my guidance is telling me do not do this session outside. And I could not think of any logical reason why going outside and doing this session was a bad idea. So I basically said, okay, guidance, cool. I get it. I understand that you're telling me that I should do this session inside, but I really don't want to. I'm going to go against the guidance that I'm receiving, and I'm going to go outside and I'm going to start this session. And that's exactly what I did. So I went outside, I set up the little chaise lounge outside and kind of got myself comfortable, set up my phone, everything else was great, started the session. And as soon as I started going into the meditation for this woman's Akashic Records session, all of a sudden, I just started getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. So I was like, oh man, that's not going to be comfortable. So I actually had to excuse myself during the session and ask her if it was okay if we paused for a couple minutes while I relocated back inside so we could then continue the session, because there was no way that I was going to be able to continue doing the session while I was getting eaten by mosquitoes. So that's just a really, really simple example. It was something that wasn't very detrimental to anything. Like, it didn't affect anything. It was just one of those moments where I executed my free will and said, you know what? No, I'm going against the guidance that I'm receiving, and I'm just going to do what I want to do. And so, of course, we have that free will. We can do that. But then there are consequences, and there are other things that happen that we don't expect, because the problem is when you are tapped into your guidance and you already know these things, it's really hard to rail against that guidance. When you do, you get this sort of proof that, okay, so if I go against my guidance, then this particular consequence is going to happen. And so you experience this more and more and more times, and you get proof of this each and every time you go against your guidance. When this happens, it sort of starts to train you to say, okay, well, when my guidance comes through, either through my angels or my higher self, I'm definitely going to follow it no matter what. So what then? Does that mean that you are no longer executing your free will at all, ever? That you're basically just following the flow of what your angels and guides and what your higher self is telling you to do? In a way, yes. If you think about it from the terms of this metaphor, let's say you're driving down the road and there is a roadblock or there's some construction coming up, but you can't see it because let's say it's around a curve. Think about your guidance as a friend who's driving, let's say, several kilometers in front of you, and all of a sudden they just call you and say, hey, there's construction up ahead. You might want to take a detour. You might want to take a different road because right now I'm stuck in traffic. So if you think of your guidance as that little friend that has the little heads up, that knows what's going on ahead of time, that can warn you about things that are going to be coming up, it's not necessarily that you're letting go of your free will. It's that you're getting a little assistance along the way, which to me is a really beautiful way to live. And that brings up the question of, well, is there only one path? And the answer is absolutely not. There are so many paths that we can take. So it's not just that there is one path that is sort of in our highest good or the best path for us in that moment in time. There can be many different scenarios that are really spectacular for our growth, for our learning, and just for our personal human experience overall. And I've talked about this before. This is why when you start getting into future telling and trying to get messages for what's going to happen in the future, that's why it can get a little tricky, is because there are so many different timelines that could potentially play out based on what you decide to do. Now, I can say that I fell into that trap pretty early on in my spiritual awakening when I started doing tarot and speaking to my guides and getting the information and that sort of thing, where I was asking a lot of future questions. So, is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? Things like that. And to an extent where I still actually do it occasionally, but it's definitely not the way that I used to do it. I would get sort of caught up in that idea of, oh, I want to know what's going to happen. I would ask my angels and guides, oh, is this particular thing going to happen? And what you have to realize is that in that moment, let's say I was asking about an apartment. So am I going to get this apartment or move into this apartment? Maybe at that point, the answer was yes, because I haven't actually looked at a few more apartments. And once I did that, then maybe one of those other apartments that I would see in the future would actually be better for me and that I would like much better to have. In which case, the answer was yes, yeah, that is the apartment that you're going to get, but in this moment. But tomorrow, that can change because you might see something way better that fits all of your needs, as opposed to maybe the one that you were looking at now, which only fit maybe 75% of your criteria. So it's for that reason that we can sometimes give our power away to things like tarot, to things like getting psychic readings or doing things like that. We can give our power away and feel like the cards or our guidance or our psychic messages know more than we do. And yes, that is the case to a certain extent, as I described, like the friend that is sort of lending a helping hand. But at the same time, if you are not asking the right questions and if you're not seeing the big picture, then you could actually be stagnating yourself by asking a particular question about the future and only getting one small answer when maybe there is a much bigger scenario that is unfolding for you that is a much better fit for the situation. So this is why going with the flow of your life and trying not to think too far ahead into the future, that's why living in the present moment is so important. And this is why so many people are talking about living in the present moment. It's because of this reason. Living in the present moment allows you to go with the flow of your life, of what is in your highest good to do on a daily basis. So then that brings us to destiny. So does that mean that if we're just coasting along in our little canoe down the river, and if you use the river as an analogy for your life, if you're going down your river in your canoe, are you just gonna sit back and just let life happen to you? Well, yes and no. You have certain points in your life that are in fact predetermined. So there are certain people that you are meant to meet. There are certain experiences you are meant to have. And those things are written in your soul contract. Now, again, going back to the free will piece, can you make the decisions in your life that will sort of take you off of that river and maybe you end up in a pond somewhere? Yeah, you could. You could actually completely derail what the trajectory of your life was supposed to be. And you may not meet the people that you were supposed to meet, and you may not do the things you were supposed to do. However, you know as well as I do that the universe has a really beautiful way of pushing us back on our path too when we're sort of going off in the wrong direction. You know that when you're going in the wrong direction for your life path and for your soul's purpose, that things start getting a little difficult. So meaning that you will have things fall apart, meaning that maybe you have to move very quickly, maybe you have to change jobs really quickly, maybe relationships will fall apart. All of those things start to happen when the universe is taking you in a new and different direction. So the one thing you will see, especially with maybe friends or family that you have that may not be on the spiritual journey as of yet, that if they are not awake and they are not aware of the flow of their soul's journey, they're not aware of what they are meant to be doing in this lifetime, they may not see the signs from the universe that are telling them that this is not the right direction for you. They may continue to beat their head up against a wall, doing the same things or making the same mistakes over and over and over again, simply because they are not paying attention. And there isn't just one definition of being awake either. So you could be completely awake about certain aspects of your life and about spirituality and about your purpose and everything else. But there are probably things that you have in your life that you're not quite looking at or that you're not aware of yet. I had one of those things for a very, very long time. And this was sort of ongoing throughout my spiritual awakening, and this was part of my awakening process. But one of the things that I used to do on a regular basis was to people please. I was constantly giving all of my time, all of my energy to all of these things and situations and people because I was basically not feeling that I was worthy of being accepted and liked for who I was. I was simply gaining or trying to gain acceptance from other people by giving too much. And I know that there are a ton of you out there that have been in this same scenario or who have done this on a regular basis throughout your life. And it's an incredibly common thing for people to do, especially when it's one of those things where maybe you were not particularly seen as a child, or maybe you were not given certain aspects of security that you really needed. That type of thing creates this need and desire to really please people, to make sure that they like you, to make sure that they are always thinking of you in a positive light. And the problem with that is that you are, in fact, abandoning yourself. And that was something that I really came to terms with. I realized that I was actually ignoring everything that I wanted to do, everything that my soul and my being was telling me to do in order to please other people. So when I started working with somebody, or I started becoming friends with somebody, and I was always trying to people please, was that coming from a place of authenticity? Absolutely not. Because inside I was miserable because I wasn't doing the things that I really wanted to do, or I wasn't receiving the things that I wanted to receive from other people, because essentially I was depleting my energy by trying to please others. Over the course of time and over the course of my spiritual awakening, the universe kept on showing that to me over and over and over again. So the more I gave, the less I received. So the more I showed up for everybody else, the less they showed up for me. The more I did, the less I got. And why was that? It was because I wasn't showing up for myself. In that regard, I kept on banging my head up against the exact same wall saying, okay, I'm always here on time. I always am here for other people. When I need help, why are people not here for me? And so it sort of started creating this victim mentality of, oh, woe is me. Why are people not here for me? Well, the reason why is because I was not choosing myself. The universe was showing that to me and I wasn't getting it. Finally, it got so bad that I basically kind of blew up. I blew up at a few of the people in my life where I was like, okay, this is not okay. I am doing all of the work here, or I am putting in all of this effort, and you're putting in literally zero effort, and it's completely unfair to me. And it wasn't until I started speaking up that I realized how angry I was, how toxic the situations were. And then I realized, you know what? I have the ability. I have the decision-making process. I have the free will to walk away. I have the free will to not do these things. I have the free will to not overgive. I also have the free will to choose myself first. Once I started choosing myself first, that was the free will bit, right? That was what I had chosen to do. And all of a sudden, the more I chose me, the more others started showing up for me. The more I chose what I wanted to do, people found themselves sort of magnetizing towards me and asking me to either go do things or work with them or whatever it happens to be, partner with them. And so you start to realize that once you follow what your path is, that's when those synchronicities start showing up. That's when it starts looking like fate is showing up in every single thing that you do. You start meeting your soul family. You start meeting people that are the exact right fit for your business prospects, for your romantic prospects. Is it really that it is destiny that is dictating your path? Or are you making the free will choices that put you on your path to destiny? I like to think about those two things, free will and destiny, as sort of a symbiotic relationship. Think about it in terms of divine feminine and divine masculine. Free will, which would be action, it would be moving forward, doing something that you know is right for you. That is divine masculine. Destiny is sitting in that space of receiving, of knowing that what is coming for you is meant for you. That's divine feminine. So if you want to think about free will versus destiny as actually divine feminine and divine masculine harmonizing together in one space, doing that beautiful dance that those two energies do to be able to help each one get to exactly where it needs to be, then you don't actually have to think about, oh, am I exercising my free will or am I just following destiny? Because you're doing both at the same time, always in balance. And if you're not, the universe is going to show you, right? I mean, whether or not you are the person who believes 100% in destiny and basically just sits back and does nothing and just expects everything to come to you and say, well, it's destiny. This is meant to happen, so I'm just going to sit back and wait for it to happen. Well, that is being 100% in your feminine energy. But if you're just always in your feminine energy, that's going to create an imbalance eventually, right? So eventually you do have to take some sort of action. You do have to do something. You can manifest. You can sit in that beautiful divine feminine energy and call to you all of the things that you desire to have within your human experience. But if all of these opportunities are being presented to you by the universe and you're not taking action or you're not taking the opportunities, then basically you are going to be waiting for a very, very long time. This episode, I wanted to illustrate to you how important it is to use both your free will as well as destiny in order to get the most balanced and the most beautiful outcome you can possibly have for your own experience in this lifetime. Now, here's the big question. How do you know when something is destined? How do you know when it's time to take action? Well, that's all about your intuition. That's all about instinct. That's all about your guidance. And I want to assure you that if something is meant for you, so if something is written in your soul contract and you are in the flow of your life, you're not resisting, you're not going down a wrong path, I will guarantee you that you will not miss it. You will not miss what is meant for you. So you can relax and not worry about possibly missing the love of your life or possibly missing a really great job opportunity or career that you know that is meant for you. It will always come for you because your energetic resonance is attracting that particular energy to your field. So when it comes to destiny, the only thing that keeps that beautiful thing from coming to fruition is our own doubt. It's our own doubt and our own fears. Those are the things that sort of get in the way of those beautiful things manifesting for us. So staying in faith, staying in balance, sort of really checking in with the universe as to when is the right time to just relax and let destiny take hold, and when it's the right time to take action and really get things accomplished and do the things you need to do. And if you're in that space of, actually, I have no idea. I have no idea if I need to take action or if I need to sit here and be in this space and allow destiny to sort of help me out. Like sometimes you don't know, and that's okay. And usually I say, when you're in that space of not knowing, it's a really good time to really go within and just check in with yourself and check in with your angels and guides and see what it is that you need to do. And if you're still not getting an answer, then simply have patience and wait, because the answer will come to you. What are your thoughts on free will versus destiny? I would love to hear some of your stories and some of your opinions on this. So if you would like, you can always shoot me an email at Annette@infinitesoullove.com, or you can find me on social media at infinitesoullove1111 on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.